Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're taking a look at something a little different.
Oh, I am intrigued. Different how?
Well, it's still mystery, still an unsolved case, but
Okay.
it's presented as a fictional short story.
Oh, interesting.
And get this,
Yeah.
it's told from the victim's perspective.
Wow, from beyond the grave. That's a unique way to tell a story. And I bet it adds a whole new dimension to the mystery.
Absolutely. It's like getting a glimpse into the mind of someone who's experienced something truly terrifying. And then, of course, we have to try and piece together what happened based on their account. So, ready to dive in?
Let's do it. I'm ready to put on my detective hat.
All right, so imagine a high school camping trip. You know, the kind with bonfires, scary stories, and maybe a little bit of teenage drama.
Sounds familiar.
But this trip takes a dark turn when one of the students ends up dead, found in a lake miles from where anyone last saw her.
Okay, so we've got a remote location. That always adds to the intrigue.
And initially, everyone thinks it's an accident. Drowning, seems straightforward.
Right. Tragic, but accidental.
But then the autopsy results come back.
Yeah.
And boom, signs of foul play. This girl didn't just drown.
Okay, so now we're officially in mystery territory. Who are our suspects?
Well, the story introduces us to a handful of characters. First, there's Zoe, the victim's best friend. She claims she left the party early after an argument with the victim.
Classic mystery trope, the best friend with a possible motive.
Exactly. And then there's Zoe's brother, Tom. He's got this long-standing crush on the victim, and to complicate things even further,
What's that?
they find his DNA on her clothes.
Oh, that definitely throws him into the spotlight. So we've got the best friend and her brother, both with potential connections to the victim. Anyone else?
Oh, yeah. There's this other classmate, Cassandra. She's the kind of person who always seems to be lurking in the background, observing everything.
I know the type. The quiet ones are always the most observant.
Right. And she claims to have overheard Zoe and the victim arguing pretty intensely that night. She even hints that Zoe might have pushed her.
So she's adding fuel to the fire of suspicion around Zoe. This is getting juicy.
But Cassandra also throws a bit of a curveball. She provides an alibi for the biology teacher.
The biology teacher. Now, why would he need an alibi?
Well, his behavior after the victim's death is, shall we say, a bit off. He becomes erratic, makes a joke proposal to Zoe, which he later retracts. It's all very unsettling, especially since he never faces any charges.
Wow, that's creepy. So we've got a web of potential suspects, each with their own secrets and connections to the victim. It's like everyone's hiding something.
Exactly. And just when you think you're starting to get a handle on things, the story shifts. We hear from the victim herself. She describes the events leading up to her death, her interactions with the other characters, her fears, and her anxieties. It's chilling and heartbreaking.
Oh, I bet. To hear her side of the story, her version of the truth, must be incredibly powerful.
It is. And it forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew.
I'm hooked already. Tell me more. What does she reveal?
She talks about how she rejected Tom's advances at the party, concerned about what people would think. She even describes choosing a longer, safer route back to her tent because she felt uneasy walking alone in the dark.
That's so relatable, unfortunately. So many women have experienced that feeling of unease, that need to constantly assess their surroundings and make adjustments to their behavior just to feel safe.
It's heartbreaking that it's become so normalized, and the story really seems to critique how those concerns are often dismissed or downplayed, especially when it comes to violence against women.
It's a crucial point. So often, the focus in these cases is on romantic rivalry. But this story pushes us to consider the broader context of societal pressures and the very real dangers women face simply because they are women.
Right. And then there's this one detail that's particularly unsettling.
Oh.
She mentions encountering two men during her final walk. It's a brief encounter, and their role in the story is left ambiguous.
Ooh, that's intriguing. A possible red herring or a clue pointing to something even more sinister. It's like the author is deliberately withholding information to keep us on the edge of our seats.
It's brilliant, really. The author mirrors the way real-life investigations often unfold, where pieces of a puzzle are missing and information can be misinterpreted.
And speaking of missing pieces, what about the official narrative surrounding the case? How do the authorities explain what happened?
Well, there's this suggestion that the victim might have been unhappy, leading to the idea that maybe it was all just a tragic accident.
Unhappy, huh? It feels a little convenient, doesn't it? Like a way to avoid confronting the possibility of something more disturbing.
Exactly. And that's precisely what makes this story so powerful. It resists those easy answers, those neat and tidy explanations that allow us to look away from the uncomfortable truths.
So we're left with this unresolved mystery, a cloud of suspicion hanging over everyone, and a chilling reminder that sometimes justice remains elusive.
It's unsettling, but also incredibly thought-provoking. This story challenges us to think critically about how we perceive these cases, how biases can shape our understanding, and how often the voices of victims are silenced or ignored.
You've definitely piqued my curiosity. I can't wait to hear more about the victim's story and how it unravels the truth behind this mysterious death. It really makes you think about how the media handles these kinds of cases.
Oh, totally. Sensationalizing the tragedy, but then
Yeah.
also trying to, explain it away, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I get it. Like they need to package it all into this neat little narrative, even if it means, ignoring all the messy parts.
Then overlooking the uncomfortable truths.
Right.
But this story, it just refuses to give us those easy answers. It's like it's holding up a mirror to all those complexities we try to avoid.
And that's what makes it so powerful, right? It forces us to sit with that discomfort, to acknowledge that sometimes there are no easy answers.
And that justice isn't always served. But it's not just about the mystery itself. What really struck me was how this story gave us these glimpses into the victim's everyday life, her thoughts, her anxieties.
It humanizes her, right? Reminds us that she's not just a statistic or a name in a headline. She was a real person with hopes and dreams and fears.
Exactly. And the story does such a good job of showing us how women's safety is often compromised in ways that might not even seem dangerous to someone who hasn't experienced it firsthand.
Yeah, like those moments where she chooses a longer, safer route back to her tent, or hesitates to accept a drink from a guy at the party. Those tiny things that most people wouldn't even think twice about.
But they speak volumes about the constant calculations women have to make, the underlying awareness of potential threats. It's like this invisible burden they carry.
And the story really challenges why that burden is placed on women in the first place. Why is it their responsibility to anticipate danger?
When it's men who are often creating that sense of unease. And you have to wonder if the focus on the victim's supposed unhappiness was a way to shift the blame. You know,
Oh, absolutely. It's easier to say she was troubled or asking for it than to confront the possibility that someone might have deliberately harmed her.
it allows us to maintain this illusion of order, this belief that these things only happen to certain types of people.
When in reality, violence against women is all too common. And this story, by refusing to give us a neat resolution, shatters that illusion. It leaves us with this lingering sense of injustice.
Like someone got away with something, and then there's that final line, in the end, I'm just another dead girl underwater. It just sends chills down your spine.
Because it captures that tragic anonymity that so many victims face. Their stories are silenced, their lives reduced to a statistic.
And their deaths met with indifference, or even worse, justification.
It's a sobering thought. So I guess the question is, what can we do to break this cycle? How can we ensure that women's stories are heard and that justice is served?
It starts with challenging the systems and the biases that allow these things to happen. But it also starts with something much simpler.
What's that?
Listening, believing, creating a culture where women feel safe and supported to speak their truth.
It's amazing how, even a fictional story can hold up this mirror to society, make us confront those hard truths.
Absolutely. And I think by using fiction, it gives us this safe space to engage with these really tough, sensitive issues.
Right. Like we can step into the victim's shoes, try to understand what she went through, and grapple with the challenges that, sadly, so many women face.
It also plays with our expectations of a typical mystery.
Totally.
We want that neat resolution, the aha
Yeah.
moment where everything makes sense.
Yeah. The bad guy gets caught, justice is served, the end.
Exactly. But this story, it just flips that on its head.
Which, to be honest, feels more true to life, right? Because in the real world, those clear-cut answers, they don't always exist.
Nope. Cases go unsolved. The truth stays hidden. And that ambiguity, it can be unsettling.
It is. But it's also a wake-up call because it forces us to realize that the world isn't always black and white. And it pushes us to think critically, to challenge the systems that perpetuate these injustices.
Because we can't just sit back and wait for the system to work. We have to be a part of the solution. So for everyone listening out there, think about this story. Think about those moments when someone's story is being dismissed, when you see bias creeping in, when the truth is being deliberately obscured.
Because those moments, those are opportunities to make a difference.
Even small actions, like speaking up against harmful stereotypes or believing survivors when they share their experiences.
They all add up. It's about changing the culture, shifting the power dynamics so that women feel safe, heard, and empowered.
Because silence only protects the people who want to keep things the way they are, the people who benefit from these systems of injustice. So let's keep these conversations going. Let's challenge ourselves, challenge each other, and let's work together to create a world where no one have to say those chilling words.
Just another dead girl underwater.
That's what we're all about here on The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone.